Okay, here we go. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here for this daily medicine transmission. We are looking at January 21st, 26th. January 26th, 2021. I'm trying to go back in time. That's what happens when you're a time traveler. So, new office. I really like the way that the light is reflecting off of the way that the ceiling is. It kind of gives this cloud coverage feel to it. So I'm really enjoying that. So I hope you enjoy it too. I'm gonna leave. I know that light back there can be a little distracting, and I don't have the best lighting right now, but I really love that it's got this kind of like sunset thing going on. So I'm really enjoying that. So hope everyone is doing well, that you are taking good care of yourselves these days, and that you are really allowing yourself the opportunity to grow right now. And that is the title of today's transmission. So we're going to talk about the astrology. As I said yesterday, it's going to be very potent today. We have the nodes squaring Neptune, as you see here. As you see here in Pisces, the Neptune in Pisces squaring the nodes, very karmic, and really testing our ability to be patient and to trust that the dinner table is set and the meal is ready for the apportioned time. With the nodes of the moon, as much as they are karmic and represent our destiny and really drives us in a direction, that dragon can be very obsessed with its focus, where it's headed. And so there is a sense of almost urgency, I would say, in some ways, on some level, to get to where we are going, to consume as much as being offered to us. And, that's the whole point of sitting at a buffet, right? Is to eat as much as you want. Well, the table is set and everything is ready. All the chairs are set. It's all ready to go. It's just a matter of trusting that at the right time, the meal will be served. And when we're talking about Neptune, there are no boundaries. It dissolves everything, right? So we are in a very liminal state here, in a place where there's nothing to hold on to. There is no footing. There is no intellectual capacity that could rationalize any of this. This is purely intuition, pure feeling, and pure trust in the cosmic coherence of this whole situation. The Pisces element is very strong in terms of trusting and feeling it all out. And with Neptune, again, dissolving everything, like I said, there are no boundaries. There's nothing to hang on to rationally. And there is no fire with this either. And squaring the South Node in Sagittarius, this is really a struggle for those of us who really want to act on some things here, to plan for the future, to make sure that we have everything that we need, right? To gather all of the firewood and to make sure that we have all of the supplies for the coming season. And it's not to say that that is necessarily a bad thing right now and on planet Earth, to be prepared for the upcoming growing season, especially, right? Making sure you have your seeds, making sure that your land is being conditioned for growth right now. This is the time when that's happening. But from a soul point of view, from an evolution point of view of our soul, why we are collectively here, we are not necessarily here to focus on that transformative energy and that collective belief system in order to make sure that we have everything based on a collective belief in what is real and what is truth. The North Node in Gemini, as it'll be here for the next year, is still showing us that our trajectory for evolution, as difficult as it is about the curiosity of Gemini, of the realm of knowledge of Gemini, and of the twins, right? Being able to simultaneously exist in one place and another, recognizing that your opposition is the same as you, but is in a mirror reflection. So it's difficult, and Neptune is not making this easy. And this is where propaganda and manipulation are very active in Pisces, and especially with Neptune. Again, we don't know what's real because everything that we rely on for identifying reality is dissolved away by Neptune. And so it really is about trust and trusting ourselves, trusting our gut, trusting our intuition, and trusting the divine source, trusting God, however you make sense of that. That doesn't mean that we are meant to be complacent. And that's where the moon comes in today, which is she really wants to be in that security blanket, the moon in Cancer. So she's very powerful in Cancer today, and is really she's hardly in any good, I wouldn't say good, any harmonious aspects, maybe with Mars, right? With Mars in Aries today, or Taurus, Mars in Taurus today, showing us that our latent, Mars is really struggling as moving along in Taurus, getting more substantiated, getting more embedded in the soil, really having to trust the natural cycle, and getting into the medium of growth, which is not Mars's comfort zone at all. So we can really feel this as it continues to go along day by day. Of course, that our that part of us, that warrior part of us that wants to act, right? That wants to it is all potent and wants to act on our own subjective experience, to individuate in some ways, is really struggling in the medium of growth. And growth is very much the transmission for today, right? And the patience with this process and trusting the natural cycle. The sun is in a square to Uranus today, okay? Uranus, which went direct at this degree. Uranus that was in a conjunction with Mars on the day of the inauguration, right? The woman at the well. It's being able to see the potential future and the new age, by letting go of the old and obsolete. And the only person able to see it for what it truly was the person who was an outcast in their own community. There was no comfort zone for this person because they went against the grain of their own culture. And because of that, and because of the judgment that she didn't hold as a result of that, she was able to see Jesus for who he truly was, and then he revealed himself. So when the sun here, in Aquarius, of course, we want to be in the future. We want to see, we want to express ourselves and fulfill ourselves through the trajectory of the future, the new person, the emergence of the new age of Aquarius, coming out of the egg, so to speak, the cosmic egg, the person that is the archetype of the new humanity. We fulfill ourselves, we express ourselves. The sun is that masculine, yang part of our personality that wants to come out. So wanting to express ourselves through that, it's not that we can't or shouldn't, it's just that it will, again, Uranus is the collective third eye, it is the revolutionary force, it is actually very connected to Aquarius. And so there is a familiarity the sun has with Uranus, but again, showing us that the real trajectory of our awakening and the crisis that stimulates that, which is what Uranus always seems to be, and the disruption in our material lives is meant to show us that it is about the natural process unfolding and letting go of the old. It is the seed that is splitting open and being disintegrated into the soil, which allows the new sprout to come forward. Okay, so there's a lot of challenge today. There's a lot of challenge with where we are headed versus letting the process unfold naturally and to be very much connected to the natural process. And there you will see in the transmission that there's a serious lack of patience on the whole. And people, again, remember, if you saw yesterday, it was pretty grim, wasn't it? It was pretty grim. There was a lot of sorrow, there was a lot of mistrust, and there was a lot of worry about the material world. And all of that is completely valid and is part of the process as well. And as we find today, it's essential that we acknowledge how much of this is not only part of the spiritual initiation, but is also, you can't force the birth process. You can't force the growth process. It is a natural cycle that is unfolding. And if we don't have patience, then we're going to pull up we're going to harvest before it's time. And that is completely counterproductive to all of the work and energy that we put into cultivating what is growing. So the moon is also in a sextile, is going to be in a sextile, obviously, to Mars. So that means it'll be in a sextile to Uranus, too. So this Taurus energy, Cancer, moon in Cancer, we're feeling a sense of safety, feeling a sense of emotional vulnerability, feeling a sense of containment, and really settling into what it is that gives us personal power. Where is the core of who we are? Who do we identify with? That's all the Cancerian energy. Now, there's also movement here because it's cardinal water. So there's momentum, there's direction, and it's the bonds, the familial bonds, the bonds of the spiritual community, the bonds with those we identify ourselves with that really create the lattice work that is the vessel. Right? And much like the womb of the mother, there is a bond there. And there is it's not a passive relationship. The womb does hold the new life, but there is a relationship there, and things pass back and forth between the new life and the mother through the womb, okay? And so we have to remember that it's not passive necessarily. There needs to be, there is some relationship, and the moon in Cancer today is having a harmonious relationship with Uranus and Mars in Taurus, which is very firmly, again, embedded in the medium, and making sure that, that we are aware of our latent potential, and we are able to gather it really as a result of our bonds and our connection to our core, right? Core of who we are, core of our values, core of our community, our family, whatever it is that allows us to develop a full personality, and characteristics. That's part of the Cancerian and the fourth house. So that's the astrology for today. So don't be surprised if, again, the level of mind games is just accelerating, and wanting so badly, and we're going to see in this transmission that wanting so badly to identify with the emergence of this new archetype and wanting to express ourselves through it, and how the challenge to Uranus is, again, providing us with a space in order to grow. That is where these squares are so beneficial. They are difficult, and people that have, grand squares in the chart, in their birth chart, people have a lot of squares. They have a lot of challenges in their life, but they grow and they learn so much as a result. And that's what these squares are providing for us today. So let's get right into, well, first let's check in here with the chat. And then I'm going to check in with there we go. That's what we're looking at. So I hope everybody is doing well. Please take good care of yourself as we go through these times. And there's some really good guidance today with this energy that we are addressing here. So let me mute this. And one thing I want to say too is that, and it's something that I've come to as well, I've had to be checked as well. You know, I'm not outside of all of this guidance as well, right? This is what comes to me. I don't like handpick these cards. They are part of my process, and I get as much information from them as I am transmitting to you. And I will say that there is who stands to benefit by taking advantage of our lack of patience for wanting answers, our lack of patience for wanting action to happen. Who stands to benefit from taking advantage of that? Oh, there are definitely people, and it's really important that we are acknowledging that, and then we're very real with ourselves, and not feeding into the fantasy land of all of it, because that is exactly where misinformation and disinformation resides, is in our lack of patience, our lack of trust in our own gut, in our own intuition, and continually wanting to externalize. The reality is that none of us really know what's going on outside of us other than what is literally right in front of us. Now, we can certainly consume information, we can do our research. That is, again, where we are headed. That is the North Node in Gemini, right? To take in the information, to take in as much as we are being offered, and to be mindful not to waste it, and to overindulge as well. That's the other thing. If you just eat too much at the buffet, man, you're going to have to, deal with the fact that you have overeaten, and that's very uncomfortable, and you need to give yourself time to assimilate and digest all of that stuff. And if you overconsume, then there are consequences for that as well. And we need to be realistic about it. And if anybody's saying they know what's happening, they don't. They just don't. And there's a reason that people say they know what's happening, and it's usually not because they have the best intentions. Maybe they do have the best intentions, and they're just as caught up in the fantasy as the rest of us. And that also feels like it needs to happen in order to learn something. And this, again, those squares, the square with Neptune and the nodes feels very, and this has been coming to exact point now for a while. This is not all of a sudden out of nowhere. It's just at exact point today, which means that the energy will peak and then it will disperse. And at least it's a mutable square. The energies of Pisces and Gemini and Sagittarius are mutable. And so they are malleable and changeable. And so it's a little bit easier in some ways to adjust to this, but at the same time, it's just as easy to get lost in another iteration of it as well. So that's important that we realize that this is a learning opportunity, but it also, again, is going to challenge us in terms of where our trust really lies and where our real power actually is. And when we have nothing to hold on to, if we have no real objective reality to consider, then and no fire, no fire with Neptune and Pisces, then we have to just trust this process. And again, it doesn't mean we're complacent. It just means that we are not externalizing our ability to be happy, and we're not externalizing our ability to know truth for ourselves. It's really important to reiterate, especially with these astrological transits that are so powerful today. So as we come into the moment, man, this is a very nice card. It's the Sun card, number 19, joy of life, creativity. And if we're going to talk about growth, the Sun is what provides all of the energy for growth, right? This is the engine of, the energy source for photosynthesis. So vitality, optimism, overcoming a time of darkness, right? The sun, here comes the sun, generous and unconditioned principles. That's the other thing about the sun, is that it gives and gives and gives and needs nothing in return. It is its own perpetual motion machine in some ways. Now, there is a lifespan of all stars. They don't go on forever. It's only as long as they have hydrogen there, right? That is how a lifespan of a star is measured. It's called the main sequence. That is the time when a star is actively creating participating in nuclear fusion, turning hydrogen into helium, right? So just fusing hydrogen atoms into helium atoms through the course of incredible amount of heat and pressure. Anyway, so it's unconditioned. That's the other thing. Remember, the sun is the ruler of the fifth house. It rules Leo, unconditioned and generous, very giving. So the sun has coming into the moment. It's like everything is here for us. The vitality, the optimism, the overcoming of the darkness, the generous, unconditioned principles, the joy of life, creativity, everything that we really value. And remember, the sun is in Aquarius today. Again, is shining a light on this archetype of the emergence of a new reality, of a new human. Of the evolving of humanity, right? Not even disconnected, but not coming from the patterns of our ancestral karma, really coming from a completely new place. That is the Aquarian archetype coming out of the cosmic egg. And so there's just so much optimism coming into the moment, and the sun is shining. That's the thing. It's been providing everything that we need. Everything we need, dark to light, right? It's right here in the moment, coming into the moment. All of this optimism and generosity, all the light is shining, okay? Now, where we get into trouble is our lack of patience, right? Here's Prudence, the 8 of discs. Prudence. This is the sun in Virgo. Now, we talked about Virgo many times. One thing to consider, Vesta, asteroid Vesta, right? The flame, the goddess of the flame, of the hearth, the fire that sustains the family, sustains the community, that is at the center of all communal life. That is what she represents. Vesta is in Virgo. She's now retrograde in a degree of Virgo that is about putting on the royal coat of arms. Well, we are having to go back over some training, right? Some education, because we are not quite ready yet. And so Vesta is directing those of us who are of service, right? Virgo, being of service, being disciplined, working on oneself in the darkness. Virgo is the time of the growing cycle when the fruit is growing. And so all of these chemical reactions, all of the stuff that's happening is happening under the surface, right? The roots are doing the work at this point. With Vesta going retrograde in Virgo, we're not quite there yet. We're not ready to put on the coat of arms, the royal coat of arms. We need to go back and go over some old stuff. We need to review about our training and our education and what it means to work together, what it means to really condition ourselves to be of service and to be committed to a cause. Now, prudence and patience, right, is, look, everything is growing. It's a full crop right here. The fruit is growing to its fullest potential, but we don't want to harvest too soon. We have to have patience. Now, here we go. In this present moment, there is certainly a lack of patience or stagnation or hoarding, right? Impatient or being foolish in the really big decisions, right? You may be overly cautious in the small ones, being very meticulous and detail oriented. That's the downside of Virgo, is being really anal retentive and hyper focused on details, but missing the big stuff, right? Making bad decisions in the big stuff because you're so hyper focused on all these tiny little details. And consideration, but doing nothing. That's the other thing. So there is the patience is either not there, or we are looking at a stagnation and a hoarding, right? We're not actually allowing the growth process to unfold naturally. We are, holding in what is already there and not growing in in a way. So here we are in the present moment. We have everything here. The sun is shining, dark to light. We are getting all the energy we need. We are getting all of the light that we need coming through, really sustaining this process. And then it meets this, which is we're not trusting and we are not patient with the natural process. Okay. So that is the present moment. Well, look at here. Again, in our conscious awareness, number 14, initiation and the Count Saint Germain. This was here yesterday, same position. This is obviously something that we need to be paying attention to. We are in a period of initiation. And what does that mean? It means we are letting go of everything that is not of the highest now, letting go of low vibe relationships, low vibe activities, low vibe thoughts and feelings, all of that stuff. And now we're just human beings. So don't get too caught up in like, oh, I'm not, perfect about this. But it's really coming out in the same position like this. It's really important that we are recognizing that we are in this initiation process into our highest potential right now. And as much as we are not patient with this situation, and there is a general feel of lack of patience or stagnation, not allowing this growth process to happen naturally, we energetically are in a position to realize here, again, our focus needs to be on this initiation process. We are being initiated into this next stage, which again, the sun, in Aquarius, being born out of the cosmic egg, this is coming forward as the next iteration of humanity, evolving into the higher dimensions, right? The 5D consciousness, if you want to think about it that way, unity consciousness. We have to think about this as the initiation, which is really, really hard right now with what's going on, because it's very painful and we are lacking patience and we're not really seeing the sun. We are seeing everything else. We're like, come on now. I'm ready. But if we harvest too soon, we just waste all of what we've cultivated so far, okay? At the root of things energetically is birth, right? So our awareness is on this initiation, but that's really just the first stage, because really what's coming through is the birth of a new age, time for a new start, and an old phase is passing away, right? This is very maternal. That's a very Cancerian energy, very maternal, very fertile, very sensitive and loving. Number 4 is very structurally sound, okay? There is a birth of a new age coming through. There is newness coming through, time for a new start, but part of that is letting the old pass away. Now, this is not fully manifested yet. Our attention is still on the initiation process. But at the root of things energetically is this new aspect coming forward, okay? And this is what is rooting all of this energy. And again, Virgo and the fruit bears the seed. So the Virgo time is the gestation time. And so the birth is coming, right? And it's coming forward. And we are just really collectively really struggling with being patient for it. We're ready for it to happen and getting anxious. Or the other way is, wanting or being stagnant in our growth process as well. But I think it really feels to me a lot of lack of patience right now. So coming from the energetic roots here is this birth process. It is the newness is coming in. Okay, this is a really optimistic, but it has a lot of pitfalls too, this transmission today. So because with the lack of patience here, here's the eon is number 20. So if you look, the sun is number 19, and then you have the eon or the judgment, which is number 20. So you can see here, and if you zoom in a little, you can see that there's a silhouette transposed onto looks like Horus in the background on the throne, and there is a young, like a child with what looks like a lot of different types. It's kind of hard to see. There's a lot of different types of animals crowning their head. But this is the rise of the phoenix, right? This is liberation and redemption. Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius. That is the Eon, the judgment card. Liberation and redemption. You know, this is the rebirth process, okay? Now, when it's reversed again, there's a lot of self-deception, the wrong identification, okay? This is the pitfall. Now, we're still coming into this judgment and we're still coming into this new age, this Eon, the rise of the phoenix. But because of our lack of patience, specifically, it is going to be a little distorted right now. And we can be deceiving ourselves. We could identify this liberation and redemption wrongly, right? We could see things, we're not seeing things correctly, and we are anxious for this to happen. And because of that, it's not there's a resistance here, and there's an inversion here. It's still happening, but because of our lack of patience, we are really deceiving ourselves about what this is. And this is why, as much of a struggle as it is with Uranus and Mars in Taurus, they are working to our benefit, and we could really stand to connect with them more rather than feel the resistance. You know, if you go back and you look at the fact that Mars came into Taurus on the 6th, and then Uranus and Mars conjunct each other on the 20th, if you go back and look at those things, you see that they were all setting the tone and setting the stage. It was the medium that Mars was planting himself into, which is not what people, you know, a lot of people did want and not a lot of people didn't want. And either way you look at it, it's still the framework and the objective reality that we are planting our potency and desire into. And so we need to work with that and understand it's just like a birth process. You can't force it. I mean, you can artificially, right? You can induce labor artificially, but we're talking about a natural process here unfolding. And if we are cultivating, and we spend all this time cultivating and doing what needs to be done, right? Just because you're waiting for the fruit to finally come to its fullness doesn't mean that you're not doing things to take care of it, right? You're making sure that it's getting enough water, and that you know, it's not getting too much sun, not getting too little sun. At this point in the growing cycle, really what you're doing is just making sure that the soil is fully conditioned and has all of the nutrients it needs, right? This is all of the prep work that goes into it. And then you're just watering the plant. And so letting it do its thing. But if you try to, again, I just feel like I have to keep reiterating this. If we try to harvest before it's time, then we've wasted all of those resources and that energy. And then this liberation and redemption, this rise of the phoenix that is coming regardless, is going to be inverted in some way. And we are going to either be looking in the wrong place, or we're going to deceive ourselves about it, okay? Now, some guidance here when it comes to the Count Saint Germain and the initiation. This is another card that's 19, just like the sun. And you can see here, it's right over top of it. This is interesting. So this is reflection. Now, that full moon is coming in 2 days, isn't it? And this is about very still water and the moon being reflected, the full moon being reflected off very still water. This is about our psychic gifts and a direct line to our psychic gifts. The initiation and Count Saint Germain. If you're struggling, if you're having a hard time seeing this as initiation, it's important that you calm the waters of your emotions, learn the difference between your lower emotional compulsions, right? Your fear and your worry and and your actual higher self, your intuitive voice, because it's calm. It's not about worry. It also doesn't feed your ego. It doesn't do it. That voice isn't going to try to make you feel better. It's just going to give you access to your truth, right? And when that full moon comes, if our water is still and calm, our emotions are still and calm, we're going to get a very accurate reflection of what it is that we need to hold on to and what it is that we need to release. Remember, we're still in a lunar cycle that started with a new moon in Capricorn. the woman entering a convent, we are still in this cycle of total commitment to this transcendent goal, which is not about the physical reality. It is about complete commitment to a spiritual attainment, right? And so if you're struggling with this initiation, it's really important that we are able to get still and calm so that we can get an accurate and clear reflection of that full moon when it happens, which is happening on the 28th. Now, along with that is the octopus. Now, this made sure to come out. I have my own ways of making sure that what comes out is correct. And sometimes I will test it. And this definitely came back around, right? Popping itself out. And so it says practice shapeshifting by altering your physical appearance and mannerisms. An octopus the skin will change color depending on what it's feeling, right? How it's responding to the environment. But also too, it's able to, have you ever watched an octopus get through tiny little cracks and crevices? It's remarkable. So again, it is literally changing its shape to fit through things and then changing the color of its skin to reflect its response to the environment. And as we see down below, we have the chameleon. So both of these animals coming out as guidance have to do with changing shape. They have to do with blending in. They have to do with flexibility, malleability, adjustability, and masking, okay? Modifying our aura, camouflage in some ways. I know that it's hard right now and that we want to fight the good fight, whatever that means. But right now, in order to really, really connect with this initiation process and to get an accurate reflection, to get in tune with our intuitive voice, we need to really be able to be adaptable, to be able to camouflage, to modify our aura. This is about energetic hygiene, and to be able to literally change shape. You can do this energetically, right? To the point where you can be invisible to people. And I have done this before. And some people do it naturally and they don't even realize it. But you can modify your aura. I'm not saying you should hide or you should try to be somebody else. This is more about maybe taking on a different energetic resonance right now so that we can get much more into the higher vibe, right? We have to let go of the lower vibe stuff in order to go through this initiation. We have to connect to the inner voice more than our lower compulsions. And sometimes that means we need to learn how to actually shift our shape in order to get into a different space, okay? Now, along with that, again, is the chameleon. Stay in the background and adapt to the situation rather than being conspicuous and attempting to change the course of events. People, again, are trying to change things, and they want things to change. And wherever you find yourself, I think that a lot of people are still wanting some change to happen, and they want things to fit into their own bubble. Instead, the octopus changes its shape to fit into the container rather than the container being changed. This is saying that it's time to be adaptable and to kind of blend in a little bit, because there is this birth process coming through and we can't force it. We just have to allow it to happen. And so rather than you can't direct a birth. It's a natural process that unfolds, okay? So again, it's about this adaptability and being able to camouflage yourself, okay? Which will really help protect you as well from would-be predators and those who are trying to manipulate your consciousness, because that is really what a lot of this is about, is a war on our consciousness. And that is what cyber warfare is all about. It is about information, but also what information we see, what information we hear, and crafting it to create a certain narrative about it. And so if we can kind of be adaptable and to camouflage ourselves, it's going to protect us from those who seek to control that, okay? And along with that is the Queen of Forces. She is in total control of herself and her energy. She's very powerful. She's able to balance the polarities of her energetic field, the sun and the moon, right? It's interesting that we have the sun, number 19, and then reflection with the moon, number 19. This is showing us that we need to be in total control of those aspects of ourselves, right? Stop relying on everything outside of us to keep, because then we will just be all over the place and not in control, because this lack of patience is really trying people right now, and really, I think it's really, especially those nodes. Oh my gosh, the nodes and Neptune today. It's really challenging people to trust that everything is where it needs to be, and we need to each be in charge of our own energy and be able to balance these aspects within ourselves, okay? And there's a lot of astrological stuff today to assist with this if we're able to lean into it and learn something from it, and also emotionally connect to our core. That is what Cancer is about, and connect to the bonds that sustain us, as opposed to looking for outside validation of any one thing happening, because if you know, then they know, and we are in a war of consciousness right now, and the best thing that we all can do is to take care of our own energetic field, to practice energetic hygiene, to be in control of our own perception of reality. And we are the shapeshifters. We adapt, we blend in, so that we are not susceptible to those who are trying to prey on us and to manipulate us, okay? So we need to be this queen of forces, right? She's the queen, right? So she's standing in the water. She's utilizing that aspect of her power, but she also is incredibly powerful in balancing these aspects of herself. So I hope everybody is doing well and taking good care of themselves, as I say every single day. You can find Catalyst Energies on Telegram and Facebook. Those links are in the description box. You can reach out via email, and if you go to the website, you can sign up for the mailing list, and you can book any kind of reading, intuitive reading, distance Reiki right now. Very soon, going to be offering actual in-person sessions where I am living currently. So that's coming down the pipeline, and Reiki classes as well, and attunements, and astrological readings. So that's all in the description box. You can find that. Please consider, if you like this content, subscribing, sharing, hitting that like button. It helps the algorithm get this content out there to others who could benefit from it. I really appreciate helping spread the message. This is a completely organic channel. I don't buy views. I don't buy subscriptions. This is, like I said, a completely organic process. And so being part of that is like being a node in a web, right? And we're all spreading out to connect to each other. And this is about being a community of support and being on this path, right? Being on this path of planetary evolution and ascension, and taking it one step at a time. So I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. And just keep in touch, and I will see you tomorrow for the transmission on the 27th. Bye, guys.